Shalom, brothers. Yeremiah from the Toronto camp in Canada. Just want to bring out some information dealing with the Hellenized Jews and focusing on the Israelites that became Greeks. When you read in the scriptures about the Grecians and the Greeks, you know, a lot of times it's speaking about Israelites, about the Gentiles and all that. So I'm going to go into the historical point of view. Of course, using the scriptures, the Bible is a historical book to show you that Israelites became like Greeks. So when you read in the scriptures, the Grecians or the Greeks, it's really talking about Israelites. I got a book here called Pictorial History of the Jewish People by Nathan Ozerbil, and on the front you see a bunch of damn devils who are Khazar converts. They're not the real Israelites. But it's funny, on the front they show modern images, but this book, it goes back all the way, you know, as you see right here, the creation and the first man. So why don't they show images from there, you know? For example, if you dig in, let's dig into this book, and if you dig into it, right here, Semitic slaves in Egypt, and they're all dark. Semitic slave meaning Israelite slaves in the land of Egypt. Alright, but that's not the point right now. Alright, I'm going to go to page 77, and it's under Jews under the Greeks and Romans. It says right here, ironically enough, just as other peoples were being assimilated by Jewish life and ideas, Jews in their turn, whether in Judea itself or in other countries, were rapidly assimilating Greek culture. Except in matters of religion, Jews in almost every other way behaved like Greeks. While in Palestine there were still many who prayed in Hebrew and spoke Aramaic, outside the country almost all Jews had adopted Greek as their language, so they spoke Greek. They wore Greek dress and took Greek names such as Theodotus, Menelaus, Jason, and Lysimachus. So they had Greek names, you know. A time came when Jews were no longer able to understand Aramaic, nor for that matter read Hebrew. That is why the Hebrew Bible had to be translated into Greek. Alright? Jewish writers and scholars became facile practitioners in all the fields of general Greek culture. They were philosophers, poets, historians, rhetoricians, and even mural painters. So, hey, Jake, all the seven sages, you know, Socrates and Aristotle, those are all Israelites. Alright, they were all Israelites. Alright, and that's the proof right there. Now, let's go here. This is the Holman Illustrated Bible Dictionary, completely revised, updated, and expanded. Alright, and I want to go to page 700 and 746. Show you some information of these Edomites, these devils that they hide. 746 under Hellenism. It says, The Ptolemies instituted a gentle policy of Hellenization, primarily through education and language. The Hellenistic culture of Alexandria strongly impacted Jewish and Christian communities. While Jews thrived in Alexandria under the Ptolemies, the Palestinian Jews faced harsher Hellenization by the Seleucid Empire, which Antiochus came from. This forced Hellenization peaked during the reign of Antiochus IV, Antiochus Epiphanes, who sought to destroy Judaism, attacking on the Sabbath day and desecrating the temple in Jerusalem. The account of the Jews' resistance, led by the Maccabean family, is recorded in the extra-canonical books of 1 to 4th Maccabees. Now check this. The early church experienced tension between Hellenized Jewish believers and traditional Palestinian Jews. And check this, a dispute which led to the naming of the earliest deacons, Acts 6, verse 1 to 6. Further, Jewish believers wanted to require Gentile believers to become Jews as prerequisite to becoming Christians. Gentile believers challenged some Jewish traditions, leading to a conflict resulting in the Jerusalem Council. Now check this. Who are the Gentiles then? As we read, they are the Hellenized Jewish believers. See what they're saying? They're Israelites, but they're Hellenized against the traditional Palestinian Jews. That's why Paul said the uncircumcised, they are called uncircumcised by that which is called circumcised. The circumcision being the Pharisees, the traditional law keepers and all that, and the uncircumcised are the Israelite foreigners, the Hellenized Jews, who became Israelites. But the Pharisees, like, who the hell are these guys? What are they doing in the commonwealth? They're heathens. Why you bringing them in the flock? But there was prophecy according to the scriptures, man. So hey, this is big right here, man. This is the big meat right here. Okay, I gotta say it like that because they tell you straight up, early church experienced Hellenized Jewish believers. There was tension between Hellenized Jewish believers and traditional Palestinian Jews. Alright, this is very big for you idiots out there going around talking about, madness basically. Okay, now let's go to page 683. This is under Grecian. Alright, you read in Acts 6 and 1. Proper adjective referring to things or to people with origins in Greece. In the New Testament, this refers to Jews who had adopted the Greek culture and language. They formed a significant part of the early church and created problems because of prejudice within the church. And if enough time, like I always say, if enough time passed by, these devils would change that word and say, oh, those are Edomites. But they can't, because when you look up that word in Acts 6 and 1 about the Greeks and the Grecians, it'll tell you Hellenists. And when you look up Hellenist, it means an Israelite who converted to the Greek customs and spoke Greek and dressed Greek and had Greek names, as we read before. Just like they do with Stranger, like Elder Rhymelop, he bringing out mad information. He bringing out a lot of information that you asshole, you stiff-necked Israelites aren't getting. About how the Masoretes, they changed the word stranger and they changed a lot of words, man. But hey, the scripture says the words of the Most High remaineth in his force. So he's going to reveal the secrets unto the servants of the prophets. So let's go to page 694. And this is under Gymnasium. Alright. In ancient Greece, the Gymnasium was the center for physical and intellectual education for aristocratic adolescent boys. The Gymnasium originated in Athens, where the citizens sought the ideals espoused by Pericles that men should have wisdom without the loss of manly vigor. Physical education included wrestling, swimming, running, and the use of bow and sling, all in the nude, because the word gym or gymnasium goes back to gymnos, which means naked. Alright, that's why even in modern day schools, you fucking go to the lockers. What do you gotta do? You gotta change, see all the men's, in the boxes and all that madness, Physical education included wrestling, swimming, running, and the use of bow and sling, all in the nude. Intellectually, the boys were trained in reading, writing, mathematics, politics, philosophy, and music. As time passed, the gymnasiums became open to all citizens and were an integral part of all Greek cities. So, like I read before, Israelites, they were philosophers, poets, all of that, During the 2nd century BC, when the Seleucids under Antiochus Epiphanes tried to convert the Jews to Greek culture, Jason, one of the Jewish high priests, built a gymnasium in Jerusalem. 1 Maccabees 1 and 14, and 2 Maccabees chapter 4 verse 7. Aristocratic Jewish young men began to frequent the gymnasium and to participate in Greek activities. The pious Jews were shocked at their both nudity, prohibited by Jews, and the practice of wearing the broad-brimmed Greek hats associated with the worship of the Greek god Hermes, which those fucking hats, those fitted hats, you know, the fitted cap hats, the hat that you get at your high school graduation and your college graduation, those are Hermes hats. That's the hat of Hermes, basically, which is a Greek god. If you look him up, he'll have that cap. You know, all that shit is wickedness. It goes back to worship of, you know, the Greek gods. You know, that's why they make you. I went through that in high school. When you gotta take the graduation picture, I asked, "Hey, can I not wear the hat?" No, it's part of the thing. You gotta wear the hat, man. You know, what the fuck is this hat all about, man? The dumbass hat. Because they make you do Esau's wickedness, man. You know. In addition, some of the young men became ashamed of and tried to hide their circumcision. These practices were one of the causes for the Maccabean revolt of 175 BC. So some men, you know, they actually hid their circumcision, man. They became uncircumcised. So let's read some scriptures. Alright. Let's go to 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 11. Alright. It says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward therein, that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, which is the Gymnasium, according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. So when you read in the scriptures in the New Testament talking about the uncircumcised and uncircumcision, those are Israelites, man. First of all, to begin with, the other nations, they were never circumcised, man. They were always uncircumcised. You know? That was it on that. Let's go to verse 41. Same chapter. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and every one should leave his lodge. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, meaning worship, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised. There you go again. So they not only did they become uncircumcised in the mind, right? That's why Yahushua, Paul Salaki said, you got to be circumcised in the mind first, spiritually circumcised. Circumcise your heart. But when you circumcise your heart, you're going to keep the laws, which you're going to get physically circumcised, you know, a time from then, you know, when you start adding faith. And then also they became physically uncircumcised. So all these generations of families passing by, they didn't teach their kids that you're an Israelite, you know, circumcise you on the 8th day. They didn't get that. So they became uncircumcised physically and spiritually in the mind. You know. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law, and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. So the punishment was death. So a lot of Israelites, they're weak when it comes to that. And the Apocrypha tells you, fear not the sentence of death. Alright, remember our forefathers, man. They were faced with that, you know.